I didn't really add it up, but I think it took me an hour and a quarter from the lower parking lot as I parked my bike down there. But it's still quiet, although it's going to get busy. But welcome to the top of Sulphur Mountain. So it is a spectacular day, and it's probably just below freezing. I'll have to put my jacket on, but I was hiking so much that I overheated pretty quickly. I cycled up from the house. Look at this. This is very interesting here. So cosmic rays. For a long time, curious eyes have looked at the night sky from this very summit, deciphering invisible particles that shower down from space. Where exactly do they come from? No one knows for sure. So look at that at night. Halebe Wahaiba Inepe Ikatua, I think that is in Stony. It's talking about the Northern Lights. Hi there. Nice to have you. I'm glad you found me here. Look at this day. Just a chance to share with everyone. There is mighty Cascade Mountain. Down in the distance, you can see Sleeping Buffalo, their sacred buffalo guardian. And there is the town of Banff, of course. And in fact, with good eyes, or I can do a bit of a zoom here, there is the Banff Springs Hotel, the Bow Falls, the Spray River, right where I was yesterday. And then my story cut out. Um, oh, yeah, good for you. Hi, Paula. Hi, Diane. Lovely to have you here. I woke up this morning with my body sort of hurting. I climbed 2 days ago, and then yesterday I was at the gym. I did a lot of biking yesterday, but I was at the gym and did some deadlifting. Hadn't done that for a while, so I felt I needed to stretch my body out. So I live up around back of that mountain there, and I rode my bike up the base of the gondola, and then um, and then I hiked up from the bottom. So there is Cascade, and there is Mount Narquay missing so much snow that the bare green slope is actually a run called the North American. So why don't we go and wander up? I'm going to see about taking the gondola down after, but we'll see about wandering up. Oh, there is a Clark's. Nope, that's a gray jay right there. You see that gorgeous birdie? Hello. Nice to see you. That is, there you go. So that is a gray jay because he's got, or she has the shorter beak. So there's two types of those birds. It's easy to mistake them, but the only nutcracker in the Rockies is the Clark's nutcracker. It looks very, very similar, except for it has a longer beak. And human food kills wildlife. So that is very, very true. So lovely to have everyone here. As I say, bit of a last minute, but after all, cut out yesterday. So there. The Bow Valley has the most diverse vegetation and wildlife in Banff National Park. Archaeologists have found evidence of humans' presence dating back 13,000 years. And say this valley was filled with ice 14,000 years ago. So more and more they're putting these in. That's interesting. Look at that. Do not feed any wildlife. Maximum fine $25,000. Now that often is targeted around people poaching, but I agree with fining anyone who feeds wildlife. Totally unnecessary. So there you are leaving the Banff Gondola leasehold property. Remember, nobody owns their land here, including me. Now, behind my house, it's a lot clearer than it used to be. It all started here. Look down. Several warm mineral springs emerge from the slopes of Sulphur Mountain. Connections between people, wildlife, and the Bow Valley date back thousands of years. 1885, the government of Canada set aside 26 square kilometers of land for the springs for all Canadians. That is the birth of the national park. And there's the Bow River flowing east. And up in the distance, there is Lake Minnewanka way out there. It's the largest lake in Banff National Park, although it was dammed twice, 1911, 1941. And then Mount Girard and Ingalls Maldy out there in the Fairholme Range. And back there, that peak way in the distance, that's Mount Almer. That is actually the highest peak you see from the town of Banff. Everyone thinks it's Cascade, but that one there is 10,400 feet. Oh, hello. Crazy, you just went by again. See if I can see it in the tree. Oh, no. And then there's Mount Rundle, of course, third highest, and Cascade over there to the left. And then down below, of course, is beautiful Sleeping Buffalo Guardian or Tunnel Mountain. Little Two Jack Lake up in the distance too. Oh, excuse me, which was formed by the damming of the big lake. Did I tell you that story? I'm sure I have, but there's that shadowy creature. See, there's my jacket hanging down behind me. As long as I'm in the light, I'm actually warm enough. I actually had my hat off for about half the hike up. The sunglasses on the whole time because because the reflection off the snow as well. But I bet you we're right around freezing right now. It was -5, -6 in my backyard this morning, but it feels colder than normal because it's so dry out here that it just feels like a cold wind. Um, but now, of course, when I hike up, I get so warm. I'll just tell you the quick story about Two Jack Lake because I really like this story. So when they dammed Lake Minnewanka, which we wouldn't do anymore, but they dammed it here. I'll turn this around so you can. I keep seeing more of the jays flying around. See if we can find one. Get all the moss that forms out here. It gets more moisture because the snow lasts so much longer. Um, so they dammed Lake Minnewanka those early days. This is another thing we try and look for here are marmots up top. But let me just show you. There's right in the tree here. There's two jays right on the branches. And I know we have a jay watching too, which is wonderful. There you go. Aren't they gorgeous birds? Precocious little things. And the nutcrackers are too. So there was, oh, hello, excuse me. There was one right behind me. Although I think he was begging a little bit. They are pretty. So in those early days, after the dam had been created and Two Jack Lake was created, it was an offshoot. And the very first superintendent, I still have to look up his name, but the first superintendent of the park was actually playing poker with two guys named Jack. They were two, one ran a concession, and the other worked. I think they both ran sort of concessions of some sort. They were playing poker, and they'd all been drinking a fair bit. And they came to the last hand, and they made this last bet with the superintendent. They said, "So whoever wins this last hand will have the new lake named after them." Well, when he sobered up the next morning, he was aware he had lost the hand, but he couldn't remember which Jack won, and so they named it Two Jack Lake. Uh, Pretty cool bit of history there. My only complaint I have two complaints about this up here. One, private company makes millions off a concession, whereas it could be run publicly, and it's this graffiti as well. I just don't know why people feel the need to do that. It's like saying, bragging to the world, I was here, but just seems so unnecessary. So this is talking about the precious pines, and there is a picture of the nutcracker that I was talking about with that longer beak. But there they are. White bark pines thrive where few trees can, high, rugged mountainsides. So, yeah, and it was listed as an endangered species in 2012. So all these high alpine places are very much protected for those white bark pines. And then the birds that interact with them play such a huge role in the ecosystem. Isn't that lovely? So it's nice to see people from around the world coming and enjoying these places. Now, of course, I hike up for free, and then well, usually they let me ride down for free. Uh, Hello. Sometimes I like to jog down as well, but I will probably ride down and hop on the bike. Look at these views back over here in this Sundance Canyon down below. That is a fun place to cycle up below. Huge amount of trees have been cleared way lower down because of pine beetle activity. And the pine beetles, of course, dry out the ecosystem, dry out the trees as they kill them, which then raises the risk of fire, which is something we're all very scared of at the moment. Et bonjour. Oh, hi. They are fabulous views today. So I just felt the need to share it. And just honestly, the need to sweat. Just starting to feel a little more at my level of fitness, but it's just nice to get out here. Here's a little monument to the white bark pine. I love the reverence for trees. So nice to have people on. Hi, everyone. Um, so I know I put these things up so last minute. There's there's Sulphur Peak and Samson Peaks up behind me, and there's the visitor center, which, to be fair, they've done a very good job with. Um, it's so long since I've eaten up there that I actually don't really have an opinion. But fun to do. Although the gondola did break down once last year before, and people were stranded for the night. Now that seems a little odd because unless you had a mobility problem and helicopters can get up here, it's not that hard to walk down. But in the summer, in the winter, of course, it's slippery. You really need to have cleats on. These little people are warm. Just move the camera way down. Like putting camera in the faces of little people. Hello. Oh, she's just struggling with the stairs. Oui, c'est très belle. C'est magnifique, surtout un dimanche comme ça, quand il fait beau. C'était -5 ce matin. Et là, je pense que ça sera 0 degrés ici. It's probably right on 0, I think. Now, when I look around for up here, this is one of the places sometimes I'm lucky enough to see marmots. Those are the cliff faces that I like to rock climb on. And then if you want to do this whole ridge up the east end or the west end of Mount Rundle, all the way over to the east end, and you go down into Canmore, the Nordic Center, that takes about 15 hours. Now, I do need to come back up there. I've brought my bike up here before. What you can do is hike up. You can hike up with your touring skis and ski down here over here. Although I'm not sure I would in these conditions. Diane, I think it's probably right on freezing right now. It was, of course, if you're in the States, it's Fahrenheit. It was probably 25 Fahrenheit. It was -5 in my backyard this morning, -5 or -6. But I only have one layer of trousers on. Yesterday I was in shorts. I only have one layer on when I was biking over, and I have gloves in my backpack. Um, it isn't chilly because I'll tell you why it isn't chilly. There is no wind finally after all the wind the last little while, and the reflection off the snow. So, like a good surveyor, hi there. Um, like a good surveyor or a good follower of my dermatologist, I have the zinc on. I bought a new tube of zinc when I was in the city on Friday, $82. But the last one lasted me 10 months. And it's only 15 SPF, but it really creates a block. And you get such a reaction off the snow here. So it is remarkably warm. And of course, when you're hiking uphill, the hike up Sulphur Mountain uh, is not inaccessible, right? Like, you know, you don't have to be some elite athlete to do it. I'm certainly not one. But it's a time factor. So from the very bottom, normally I go from the upper parking by the hot springs. This time, down through the trees, you might make out way down there, um, the lower parking lot. So that's where my bike is locked up, and it took me about an hour and a quarter. Well, it's also, if you're not from altitude, you will feel it, of course. Whereas I don't tend to feel this altitude. So see, there's a shadowy creature walking along. But I do, this isn't the very first hike you want to do. Sorry, I'm just scanning all of the rocks. I'd love to show you a great big marmot. Often see them. We get pikas up. The pikas are still probably snoozing. Now, these people, you can walk down, but that's where they cleared out trees down in the distance there for the pine beetle. So when you're driving back from Lake Louise is straight down that valley, 52 kilometers. So you're driving back, you can actually see this clearance. There's a really good view of Mount Bourgeot. That's the one I see from my backyard. Bourgeot was the naturalist in the Palliser expedition. He was from France. I remember Captain Palliser said there was no better person to be a naturalist than the person who loves absolutely everything they see. That was really neat. But you'll see these upthrusts. This is all this limestone, right? And if you look long enough in this rock, you will find fossils. So they are here. And there's the lichen that is all forming, of course, gradually becomes soil and then allows for the trees to come and take hold. And they really do a remarkable job of finding the littlest amount of soil, creating a root system. And of course, evergreen forest. There's no tamaracks up here, actually. There are a little higher up when you get out towards Lake Louise. There are lots of people around. But what is fun is I go down this valley that leads all the way up. So we're up on Sulphur Mountain, the lowest of the ranges around here. And then, of course, you have the whole Rundle Range and then the Grassy Range on the left, and the Goat Range on the right. And you're leading down into Kananaskis country and to Brokeback Mountain way down there. And that heads south on a route all the way down to southern Alberta and eventually to Waterton in that area, and then to the border, of course, Montana. So it is the views today are just perfect. Oh, yeah, this is why I was happy to share this with everyone. I have no idea why it all cut out yesterday, but it did. Sometimes I think it was interesting, actually. Anyone who had an Outlook account yesterday had to reset their password. So I think there was just some gremlin in the system. And often, see, we just have basically one cellular tower in each part of the valley. And so if there's any issues or too busy, that can affect it. That's part of the reason I wanted to have a go at doing a tour here. Hey there. So nice to have. I actually think there's probably more people on than it's showing me, but as long as you can hear me. So, uh, and when I come up around the corner, well, not that these views aren't wonderful, but I come up around the corner, I'll give you some of the big, powerful views out there. So, um, yeah, it is wonderful. When you look down in the valleys, yeah, and it's interesting. It's actually an interesting thing about humans that read about that we don't have very good depth perception from height. Monkeys do; they know exactly how high up in a tree they are, but we're really good at looking at the distance and realizing cars coming towards us and how far that is. A lot of animals struggle because their brains don't process something going 100 kilometers an hour, but we're not great at looking down and getting a sense of the distances. So there we are, looking across at that Sundance Range. There's Mount Bourgeot, which I had pointed out to you, and then Mount Brett. That was Dr. Brett. He was the first one to use the hot springs for health reasons, and that was really good of him. That's the one in the middle. He used to overcharge wealthy tourists so he could provide free healthcare for locals. And then this one out there, that is Pilot Mountain. See that nice little cap on that one? That was literally when they started flying into this valley in 1911. That was what the pilots knew. They would hang left to go down the valley further on into Kootenay, which is where then the Trans-Canada Highway went. There is snow up here, but not down in the valley, I tell you. This is talking about the animal overpasses and underpasses. Very important. And then, as we make our way over here, so there's Le Mont Louis, Mount Lewis, Mount Norquay, of course. Ski hill named after the first premier of Nova Scotia. Interestingly enough, they've named a different mountain Pilot Peak, but it's actually the other one. But that wonderful tower out there is Mount Lewis. And that one, if you're driving in towards Banff from the east, so from Calgary or Canmore, you can actually see that past Mount Norquay. You can see it standing up as sort of this fabulous peak. And there's Stony Lookout, lovely hike. But see that field right there, that meadow should be covered in snow this time of year. Totally. We're March 2nd. In fact, the golf course, I was biking there yesterday and I was biking there a few days ago. And then a week ago, I was just covered in mud and mush and now it's nearly dry. I still have the studs in my tires. The snow should come back. And whilst I'd love to ski down here, never have any luck. It just turns into cliffs. There are some little footprints in there, and I bet you those are like pine marten footprints in the snow because they're a little too deep. They're not squirrel, so it's pretty neat to see them out there. So we might as well go up all the way to the old Cosmic Station, but um, yeah, there's Mount Almer that I was mentioning before. Ingles Maldy, Girard. Oh, it does say we can see Peakchi from here. I guess we can. Way in the distance. That means Soaring Eagle. Beautiful mountain peak. So lots of people around up here. So I feel like I'm still in a Zoom. Maybe not. Um, so happy Sunday. I hope everyone is well and healthy wherever you are around the world. I think we have people on board from at least 5 countries, which is pretty neat. And I am home still for a couple of weeks, which I'm pretty happy about, although I will be going up to the Northwest Territories. Now I'm gonna have to see. I did have it. I'm gonna have to see. I've never had great luck with the camera on my phone capturing the northern lights, but I will do my very, very best when I'm up there in Yellowknife. There you can see beautiful Banff Avenue and our famous bridge. And then there's the YWC, the original hospital. But once again, those who joined in a bit later, there is the Banff Springs Hotel down there. See? Um, oh, honestly, so Marilyn was just saying it would be amazing to stream the lights. Um, Now, March is meant to be the driest month up there and the highest occurrence. Now, it's been snowing. Again, I cannot control. I've always been a bit trepidatious about putting on a Northern Lights tour, specifically because it's dependent on solar activity. Sorry, guys. Uh, it's dependent on solar activity. But if it does work out, then I will put one up for next year immediately because really the challenge is, well, it's getting accommodation up in Yellowknife, there's only 3 or 4 hotels, but actually it's the flights up there. That's the real thing securing the seats. Have a look at this rock. This is good sharp limestone here. Um, well, I think the thing is it's still very, very cold in Yellowknife, although not as cold as it can be. It can well be into the minus 30s, but we have this heated bus and we get out when the lights are on. You get out of the bus and look, and then you get cold, and you line up again. The little person hiking up the rocks, which is kind of fun. So I might as well take that final step up here, and I will just take. Here's the old Sanson Peak, the highest point on Sulphur Mountain. There you go. And this was a cosmic ray station. There's a lot of people up there. So, located at the top of Sulphur Mountain, the cosmic ray station was completed by the National Research Council in 1956 in preparation for International Geophysical Year. We've been studying the climate here since the very beginning, which is very important. Yet somehow, people with very little education yell and scream and say that there's no climate change. So, but these are the kind of places in the world we measure it. I always reference Dr. Pomeroy at the University of Saskatchewan, but he's based in Canmore. We were just chatting about him the other day and thinking he must wake up just with an existential dread most days as they interview him and he talks about the disappearance of the glaciers. Here's beautiful white bark pine. You can get a real sense of the bark there. So lots of people around, little people playing on the rocks, but I'm all for that. Here you go. What are cosmic rays? They're the energized particles traveling close to the speed of light after being accelerated by our sun or by exploding star supernovas in distant galaxies. Isn't that just so cool? Um, yeah, really just amazing. So I still haven't had to put my jacket on. There's another view of Lake Minnewanka out in the distance, everyone. So I will start to head back, and then I think I'll try and hop on the gondola and head down and get my bike. And then I have not. Well, I had a handful of nuts this morning. So um, and if that was bad. Do you know what? I will tell people to get off, but that is not actually a place where it doesn't say there's no entrance. It's not the fenced area. So so I will tell people off if well, if you ever want to actually hear me get angry, feed an animal. And the only other time I've spoken up to someone here is when they were trying to scratch their name in the railing. And I mean, it is a bit of a no-win thing because so many people have done it, but still, I just think it's so unnecessary. Thank you, Diane. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Um, and it's contribute to my lunch, but it's that sort of thing offends me. But at the same time, I'm not one of those people who complains about how busy my town is. I work in tourism and it's a national park. I think I've said many times I consider myself to be much more of a custodian rather than an owner. Isn't it lovely to be here? So next time you're up here, maybe we'll come up. It's just when you come in the warmer months, it just gets too busy. But there is the park administration building, built in 1931 down there, finished in 33. Beautiful building, a really beautiful building. I don't know how we've been on for 23 minutes so far. You had it. It's So I'm just going to see all the marks on the wood here from people's cleats. And these are my older shoes. I just leave these ones because the cleats fit so well in them that I just leave them on for hikes, which is fun. Here we are. Wetlands, aspen, forest, grassland, meadows, Douglas fir forest form a rich mosaic of life in the lower Bow Valley. Is the ecological heart of Banff National Park. Yeah, and I haven't actually seen the elk for the last few days. I think they're maybe over at the airport landing strip. I think maybe that's where they are, but I'm not sure. And then up that valley, normally the bottom Mount Norquay is a great place to go cross country skiing, but boy, we just don't have the snow. I was contemplating going out to Lake Louise today and cross country skiing there, but even at Moraine Lake Road, I guess it's just not great. Sorry, I have a bit of a running nose. I'm just going to get past everyone here. folks, and then I will pack everything away, check on the state of the battery. Usually that'll tell me the actual temperature. If it's freezing or just below, the battery burns down almost twice as fast as if it's just a degree or two above. Really interesting. I'm gradually working up to a new iPhone. My one's the 14, although I just don't want to buy any products from down there just at the moment. So I just heard a bird chirping, or maybe a marmot. I don't know, but there's some lovely white bark pine. What a gorgeous day. Some high wispy clouds. It seems to be getting windy in the afternoons each day, but just a lovely morning to be out like this. So there we go. And people all with their cameras, which is lovely. So hi there, ladies and gentlemen. I see some people joined on really quite late. So I know it's always tough where I put these things up so last minute. Um, yeah, it's there is a you're very welcome. We're in a very tense world just at the moment. And I tell you what, when you're feeling tense about it, climbing up a mountain like this and realizing that there's, food in the pantry at home, and we just don't need to stress about things as much as sometimes we do. Although, of course, in my hour and quarter, I was able to get in two podcasts. They both happen to be about Ukraine. So I want to send out a lot of love and support to all our Ukrainian friends. And of course, this country has the largest per capita Ukrainian population outside of Ukraine. So, pretty big deal here, as you can imagine. And here in the province of Alberta, which otherwise tends to be on the more conservative side, but they're not going to be sympathetic. So anyway, that's a sad thing, and a lot of Ukrainians working here in the national park too. Some who been evacuated. Some lines up there. Nice to have them. So anyway, from gorgeous Sulphur Mountain, give you one more view of the mountains in the distance out here. So peak of Sulphur, and then great big Rundle Range. That's the longest single range here in Banff National Park. Gorgeous. All right, ladies and gentlemen, peace and love to all of you. Ça fait plaisir. Et il va falloir que je fasse une tour en français bientôt. And I want to do one in Spanish as well at some point. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, lots of love, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.